Because overwhelm isn't really about having too much to do. It's about your brain carrying so much information at once that you keep freezing up. You keep saying things like, I'll start tomorrow, or maybe next week I'll be able to have more capacity for this. And ultimately, it never really relieves itself. That feeling of overwhelm never finds relief because you're constantly putting things on the back burner. You're not actually allowing yourself to process and plan for what you're feeling right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tony Robinson, and I help busy professionals and high achieving women create more sustainable success in their lives. And today we are getting into 7 micro habits that you can do in your daily life to get out of overwhelm and to start taking more action towards the goals that have been calling your name for so long. I recently had a move across the country and a lot has been changing in my life at once. The move itself was crazy, and then I had a grandfather pass away. My husband got extended on his deployment, but he is finally home, thank God. And it has just been a lot of transition, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of chaos. And these are some of the habits that I had to implement every single day and intentionally choose to be part of my routine in order to keep me moving forward and not get so stuck in that freeze mode. Don't get me wrong. I was frozen for several days and ended up totally shutting down and needing to seclude and get real deep rest for a long period of time for I don't know, it was 5 or 6 days because I got sick and my body was like, we're tapped out. And what I want is to prevent you from getting to that point where you are so overwhelmed and so stressed that your body has no choice but to force you into rest. A lot of people will try to beat overwhelm with more effort and pushing through, or this productive procrastination of making more lists and rearranging your schedule. And sometimes that can be helpful, but honestly, when you are frozen, those are not the things that are going to help you move forward. These 7 micro habits that I go through today help you reset, gain clarity, and finally start moving forward on the things that actually matter to you. So if all of that sounds interesting to you, I hope you'll stick around and let's get into it. Habit number 1 is a reset ritual. When I am feeling my most scattered, my most overwhelmed, my most all over the place, the last thing I do is force myself to start working. The last thing I do is push myself even more because I have proven to myself time and time again how much that does not work. And this isn't a huge reset that takes days or even hours. This is something really quick that can just reset my energy and get me back into a calm and present, grounded state. So some of the things that I like to do are put on a really calming YouTube video, something that is lo-fi beats or binaural beats. Those things really help me shift almost instantly into a calmer space. Not completely calm, but it helps me bring my base level down a pretty big notch. I also like to make myself something warm, like a hot cup of coffee, a hot cup of tea, something that also calms the nervous system down. Iced coffee is good when I'm ready to get into work mode, or an iced matcha. I really like those things. But when I'm trying to relax my body and ground into the present moment and just kind of bring my nervous system back to a neutral point when I'm feeling particularly heightened and stressed, that is when something warm can really benefit the body in bringing you back into a more grounded and less charged space. Another thing I like to do is freshen up. Going into the bathroom and just splashing water on my face or doing like a facial spray, spraying some perfume on, brushing my hair even. My hair gets so tangly throughout the day, so even just like going through it with a brush and then like spraying some perfume on, it just helps me feel better about myself. It helps me feel more confident, and it reminds me that I have control over the way that I feel and over the way that I take action, which ultimately empowers me and makes me feel more motivated to start moving forward again. And then the last thing that I kind of do to reset is cleaning up a space that feels cluttered to me. So most of the time that's the kitchen, dirty dishes in the sink, cleaning that up and just kind of creating a fresh space in the kitchen, and then making myself a warm cup of something is so helpful to just like calm down my body, calm down my mind, and give me that pause long enough to where when I go back to whatever was overwhelming me, I feel like I am so much more calm and ready to take action again. It almost changes my reality of how much it actually is going to take to do whatever was overwhelming me. I end up on some sort of different timeline, like, oh, that's actually not that hard, or oh, that's actually not going to take me that long, or oh, that's actually not going to be as big of a deal as I was making it seem 5 minutes ago. So sometimes clearing the clutter or the chaos of what is around us actually clears our brain as well and allows us to see things from a new lens, and it feels like a completely new reality, and it's so beneficial. Going through this process, it really helps reinforce our brains that we are safe. We are hitting a reset button, we're hitting a pause, we're giving it the attention that it needs, because it's like crying out for us. It's like, oh my gosh, please help me, relieve me from some of this overwhelm that I'm trying to like process and go through in here, you know? Like our brains, when we're feeling overwhelmed and starting to shut down, that is our brain screaming for something different. Like we need to do something differently. And so when we give our brain that attention and bring the awareness to that overwhelm and do something to relieve our brain from that, it rewards us by allowing us to execute and process and take action more quickly and more effectively and more efficiently once we've hit that reset button. Which leads me into habit number 2. The overwhelm that we experience is coming from our brain. It lives in our brain. Our brains hold so much for us, and when we don't process that information or actively take care of it as it comes into our brain, we are ultimately setting ourselves up and our brains for overwhelm and for stress, because when we don't do something with the information, it has to stay in the forefront. So if we think about a cup of water, you can only add so much to that cup before it starts to overflow. And that's what's happening to our brain. We can hold a lot in our like conscious mind, but at a certain point, it starts to overflow and we start to forget things, or things start to feel like it's just too much. I can't take any more on because I'm at capacity. And so if we don't do anything to get the information out of our heads and do something with it or process it in some way, our brains will shut down and it will be impossible to work on what you want to be working on. It will be impossible to put more information into your brain, and it's even more difficult to recall what you've been trying to remember to do, or the things that you are trying to keep track of up here. It just becomes so much harder to recall that information and actually do something with it. So the fastest way out of the overwhelm when you start to feel it coming on is to do a brain dump. Start writing down everything that you can possibly think of that you have to do, that you have to process, that you have to take action on, that you have to plan for, everything. An idea that you've had in your head, everything. Even if it's like, text so-and-so happy birthday, like anything small to anything big, write it all down, get it out of here and on to paper, digital or physical paper. I also like to take my brain dumps one step further by categorizing each of the items in that brain dump into 3 different categories. One is do, one is delay, and one is delete/delegate. So these 3 categories are going to allow you to know whether something needs to be worked on right away, whether something should be scheduled for the future, or whether you can just delete it or delegate it and get it off of your plate altogether. I have a free Overwhelm to Action blueprint link down below. I'll talk more about this throughout the episode and at the end, but if you are like, yes, I need this brain dump right now and I want to know how to categorize it into those 3 different categories, you can go grab that blueprint. Super, super helpful when you are at this phase of overwhelm. Okay, habit number 3 is the one thing compass. This is what helps you decide what is the most important thing that you should be doing. If everything feels important, nothing gets done. If everything feels like the highest priority, there is no high priority. Everything is the same. So here is what I like to ask myself. What is calling for my attention most right now? And a lot of times if I have like a lot of goals that I want to work on or a lot of things that feel super urgent, I will look at the wheel of life, which has all different areas of our lives. I rate each area of my life on a scale of 1 to 10, and I will say, okay, the areas that I'm rating really low, like a 1, a 2, or even a 3, those are the things that are calling for my attention most in this moment. Of these things that are calling for my attention most, so let's say it's like 3 areas of your life or 3 goals that you have that you want to do or 3 projects that you want to work on, which of these would make the biggest impact on my life right now? Which one would in just one, you can only pick one, will have the biggest ripple effect on my life right now? And this is so important to consider in terms of like your entire life. For example, if you have like a work project that is really weighing on you and it is affecting every single part of your life, like it's affecting your ability to be present with the people that you love, it's affecting your ability to have free time because you're spending so many nights and weekends working on this project for work, it is affecting your ability to just like have a good time because you are constantly worrying and stressing over the fact that this project is on your plate. That is something that if you put the effort and energy into prioritizing that, it will not only affect that one project, but it will affect so many different facets of your life as well. And so when we go into the one thing compass and start asking ourselves these questions of like, what is calling for my attention right now and what is going to make the biggest impact on my life as a whole right now, that is the kind of consideration that I want you to make, is like, what is feeling the most active for you right now? And when I say active, I mean, what is feeling the most triggering? What is feeling the most time consuming? What is feeling the most like daunting and anxiety inducing? Those are the things that you want to look at and try and prioritize. And if you can't prioritize the specific task right this second, like you have other things that are more urgent to attend to, at least prioritize making time to clear the level of overwhelm and anxiety that you have around that specific thing. And that's kind of like a totally different ballgame, but I actually have a really awesome resource for clearing those feelings and a tool that helps you in those emotional, really highly charged periods. It's called the Emotional Toolkit, and I will link it down below if you want to look into that. But basically, if there is something that is going to make a huge impact on your life, if you were able to feel differently about it, or if it was not on your plate, then that is something that needs to be prioritized at the top of your list. I like to use the wheel of life for perspective if I'm not really sure what to prioritize, but honestly, asking those 2 questions, if I know what the top things are or I know what the biggest things are, asking those 2 questions really help me clear a lot of the noise and get me straight to what I need to work on right now to feel better. Habit number 4, this one's kind of random, but it's called the freeze melt. And basically what I do is I take a de-thaw shower. Basically what it is I take a shower to thaw the freeze mode. I literally go into the shower. A lot of the time I will sit in the shower. I know it's kind of weird, but like I sit down in the tub and then I just like let the shower fall on me and I kind of just let my brain go. Like I allow the water to kind of cleanse me mentally, physically, just allows me to be in a different headspace. So I will just go and sit and process my thoughts, get ideas, and kind of sort through the things that have been cluttering my brain. And I just sit in the stillness. I sit in the silence. And sometimes it's just really relaxing to just be in that and not think anything at all. And then once I get out, I like to pair it with a brain dump, because a lot of times what I feel is when I get out of the shower, after I've kind of like processed everything, I'm a lot more clear on what I should be doing, what I should be working on. I've kind of allowed myself to recall a lot of what's been swirling and not able to be executed on. I'm able to get everything out. I'm able to prioritize from a better place so that I can categorize everything more clearly, and it just helps melt some of the overwhelm and the stress away when I intentionally go into the shower, not just as a like, oh, I'm gonna like take a shower, but intentionally to be like, I'm going to allow this to clear my head. I'm going to allow this to clear my overwhelm, and I'm just going to sit here in silence and stillness and allow what comes up to come up and allow what needs to be processed to be processed. I'm going to think, I'm going to cry, I'm going to sit, I'm going to stare, I'm going to like let the water fall on top of me and just allow myself to be. Game changer. Okay, habit number 5 is creating a focus bubble, meaning that you create this little space in time for you to focus on one thing. So this also pairs really well with the brain dump and categorization, because once you've kind of decided, oh, these are the things that I need to do right now, then you can start taking action. But sometimes it can still feel hard and distracting to take action when you know you have so much to do. So choosing one of the things from your do column or your do category and then creating a focus bubble. For me, a focus bubble is putting on a study with me video. So there's like all kinds of videos on YouTube that allow you to do like a Pomodoro method where they put a timer on the clock and you have to work for that, however long that timer is. Sometimes it's like 25 minutes, sometimes it's 50 minutes, and then you get a break in between. And then there's like 3 or 4 different sets of those timers. So you have like 3 different sets of 25 minutes and then 3 different sets of 5-minute breaks, and you just work on whatever you can for that 25 minutes and then you take a break. So that is basically like your focus time. But then I also like to create a bubble by like bringing a candle into the mix or a blanket that makes me feel really cozy, turning on do not disturb. It's basically like creating this environment that surrounds you with focus. It just creates this reinforcement to my brain that, okay, it's time for us to get stuff done. We're going to focus for these 25 minutes or this hour or whatever it is. And then we're going to get a break. We're going to be able to chill again. We're going to be able to like have this little rewarding time. But right now, this is what we're doing. I feel like this one is most helpful, not when I'm necessarily overwhelmed, but when I'm not motivated to do whatever it is that I have to do. So that could be because of overwhelm, but a lot of times it's just like, oh, this just does not sound like a fun thing to do. This isn't my favorite thing to do. It's not something that I'm really interested in, but it has to get done. The focus bubble really creates an environment for me to be able to do that and just knock it out rather than continue to procrastinate and put it on the back burner and then have that contributing to my overwhelm in the other areas. Okay, habit number 6 is an accomplishment check-in. At the end of every single day, I go into my Notion and I check off all of the things that I did for the day. I even go back and I add things in that I didn't previously write down just so that I can have more like check boxes and feel more accomplished because I deserve it. we deserve to get that feeling of accomplishment and achievement when we did more than what we set out to do, especially if it means that we have to move things to another day. Like if you didn't get to something that you had planned, but you did get to 3 other things that weren't on the calendar or weren't on your to-do list, add those babies in so that you don't feel like, oh, I'm such a piece of crap because I didn't get to these 3 things. No, babe, it's because you were doing these other things. So like, let's remind our brains that we are amazing, badass bees, and we can do anything that we want, and we can do anything that we set our mind to. We chose intentionally to prioritize these other things over these things that we're moving to tomorrow. And it's fine. It's totally, I like to do that check-in at the end of the day, not only to give myself that sense of accomplishment, but also to reorganize and set myself up for success tomorrow. So anything that I didn't get done today, I'm going to move to some other time during the week, or I can take it off my list entirely if I feel like it's no longer relevant. And then I also will add anything that hasn't been added yet, or that came up during the day that I haven't yet added to my to-do list. The thing about this is like how you end your day really sets you up for how you start your day tomorrow. And so in addition to this accomplishment check-in, I also make sure that my kitchen is clean because I start my day in my kitchen. I'm always going there first to make my cup of coffee. So if I go into my kitchen and it's a complete disaster and I automatically feel overwhelmed looking at a sink full of dishes or overflowing trash, and I automatically get into that overwhelmed space, that is likely how I'm going to spend the rest of my day. Or I'm going to start my already off track because now I have to clean the dishes, and that just put me 30 minutes behind, and I have to take out the trash. And then I just realized when I took out the trash that I forgot to do this thing in my garage. And so then I get distracted, and like it just spirals into all of these other things when we don't set ourselves up for success the night before. Taking the time to clean the kitchen or clean up your office or clear off the table or whatever it is. Doing an evening check-in and a set yourself up for success routine. It's going to be so helpful for preventing overwhelm continuing into the next day. And then we have habit number 7, which is a scheduled pause. We think that productivity means that we have to be going nonstop, and that if we stop to rest or chill, then all we're doing is increasing our overwhelm for the future because we're losing time that we could be working on something. But pausing on purpose actually helps you prevent getting to that space of overwhelm, because when you pause, you give yourself, kind of like what I was talking about with the shower, you give yourself time to process your thoughts. You give yourself time to think about what's actually important to you. You give yourself time to consider what the priority is. But if you're just going and operating off of like whatever is flying at you, and you're just kind of like flying by the seat of your pants, then you are ultimately going to make decisions that put you further behind. You're making decisions out of a panicked, overwhelmed place, not a calm, grounded place. So the decisions that you're making may not actually be the best decisions for the best outcome. So take an intentional 5 to 10 minute break throughout your day. No phone, no scrolling, no electronics, just breathe. I really like to go out on my patio, sit on my chair, and just look at nature and just breathe for a few minutes. Like 5 minutes is really all I need to kind of reset, and then go back inside and do whatever I need to do. Sometimes the best productivity hack for our lives is giving yourselves permission to stop, recalibrate, and then from a more neutral space, move forward. Okay, guys, we are getting to the end of this episode, and hopefully this was helpful. A lot of these can actually be paired together, or you can like mix and match things depending on what's causing the overwhelm, what you feel like would be most helpful for you in a certain moment. Like, I wouldn't recommend doing all of these things at once, or I wouldn't recommend that all of these things are always going to help all of the time. It depends on where you personally are at and where your overwhelm is generating from and what you are actually needing to feel relief. We're all different. We all need different things. And I go through different seasons where one thing like the shower may not work as well as taking a breath and sitting outside. So just try to be aware, and that's part of why pausing is so beneficial, because it helps you know what you need. You're not just taking information in and acting on it all willy-nilly. I would never recommend that you just do all of these things mindlessly and not actually check in with yourself first. So my top recommendation for all of these is to, number one, take that pause. That was the last one, and it may have seemed like the smallest one, but giving yourself space to really check in with what you need to feel overwhelmed. Like, try and listen to what your body tells you. Listen to what your mind tells you, because it will not lead you wrong. You have the answers within you, but you have to get quiet enough and take space long enough to hear the answers. But what I will tell you is that overwhelm is not going to go away by you pushing harder, by you not taking breaks, working extra weekends and nights and all. No, that is not the way. It goes away when you give yourself space to rest, when you give yourself time to reset, and when you allow yourself to have those small moments of clarity. Pairing these micro habits and including them into your day allows you to not only get more done and be more productive, but you are going to feel so much better while you are doing all of the things that you have to get done. So my loves, if you are ready to stop the spinning and start taking action towards the things that you really want in life, highly recommend grabbing that Overwhelm to Action blueprint. It is linked down below. It is completely free. It will walk you through the brain dump process, the categorization process. It also helps you build momentum into the next step that is going to keep you moving forward and following through. However, if you've already done the Overwhelm to Action blueprint and you're like, I need something more, I need more accountability, I really want to create like a whole vision and plan for all of the goals that I have, like I've prioritized everything, but I really want to have like a solid plan going forward into the next several months of my life, then the monthly planning sessions are going to be for you. This is a one-on-one session with yours truly, where we get really clear on where you're at right now, where you want to go, and we create a blueprint for you to get from where you are now to where you want to be. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this episode was helpful. I truly cannot tell you guys how much I appreciate you, your comments, your love that you give me on a daily basis. It really means the world to me, and I am so thankful that you are here. If you haven't already, hit the like button so that I know that you enjoyed this episode, and hit the subscribe button to stay along for the journey. I am wishing you so much success on your week ahead, and until next time, take care.